and we've got more in the works, so this is just one of our latest ones. Howdy, my name is Mr. Dockery. I'm the instructor for the Building Trades and Construction Design Technology program here at Columbia High. The program prepares you for a career in the different working with wood industries, very vast, very broad, carpentry, construction trades, electrical, plumbing, air conditioning. You'll be introduced to roofing, drywall, painting, and all the other adjacent industries. Another component I'm really excited about that comes with this is Future Builders of America, FBA. It's a program modeled after FFA, Future Farmers of America, but it's construction oriented and follows those same lines, encourages competition, encourages character, and those kinds of things. So that's a great opportunity that's going to be available to students. The PACT credential, because it's through HBI, is going to be recognized by companies in the home building industry as being thorough, being relevant, and being a valuable asset for a potential employee. Students that come through here, I think you will find that not only will you learn life skills that'll benefit you your entire life, regardless of what career you go into, but you'll be introduced to the tons and tons of opportunities that connect to the working with wood industries. Not just carpentry, plumbing, electrical, painting, drywall, flooring, site work. If you're very knowledgeable about construction, it helps you in real estate sales. A lot of the skills that you learn in here translate into retail and not just construction. So I'd love to encourage any student with any interest in this to come and see what it's all about. That's it, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carswell. I'd like to welcome our visitors and invite anybody who would like to address the board as to an action item at this time. Our only action items tonight are personnel items. So if anybody would like to address the board as to the personnel items on the agenda, you can do so at this time. With no one moving forward, we'll move forward in our agenda. Mr. Superintendent, is our agenda in order, including the addendum?
Yes, ma'am, with the addendum.
Okay. So do I have a motion to close and adopt the agenda at this time?
Madam Chair, I move that we close and adopt the agenda as well as the addendum.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion as to the agenda? With no discussion, all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. The agenda is approved. We'll move on to our presentation. Ms. Laxton.
Good evening, everyone. As you can see, we are still at the 5.81% for our funds unassigned, and that is included of the budgeted amendments that I did have included in your packet this time. Taxes were at 98% for current year. That's up 4.3% from prior year. For the half-cent sales tax, we did collect our first quarterly payment, which was $263,000. So for March, April, and then May for just the quarterly, we collected $1.157 million. So if I do the math, just a quick high level, that's an estimate of $6.4 million. So that's about kind of what we, maybe just a little bit low, but about what we've estimated. We've estimated 6.5 to 7 million. So again, I'll continue to report that as we get more funds in. Electricity, we are favorable by 35,000 or 1.7%. Fuel favorable by 32,000 or 4.1%. Just a reminder, I did move the 200,000 out of the fuel last month. So that is about all that I have for the data. I do want to just point out two things. We have gotten some good feeling from our 23-24 budget. We do have definitely some things that are still open. FRS is definitely going to have an impact on us. We have had an increase in insurance. But I do want to to point out, we are hoping to be held harmless from all of the scholarship changes that are going to occur. So if that's the case, then definitely we should have a favorable budget. And I'm really wanting to try and do an executive session for the June 27th, maybe like a 30-minute prior to the board meeting, so that we can discuss and go ahead and plan to discuss with our unions, you know, where we want to go with raises and things like that. So kind of just putting that out there, feelers for you guys on that. Other thing that we have had some information on the medical insurance, we met with Gallagher, and at this point, we're actually favorable by 1%. So it's looking very favorable and positive that we should not have a premium increase. Now, we do have 2 more months left before the final decision is made, and historically, those have actually been lower. So we're hoping maybe we'll see maybe 2-3% decline. My thought is, you know, of course, we'd keep that flat, maybe, you know, depending on what you guys decide, and of course, our insurance committee. So I think that's it, unless you guys have questions.
So you think by June the 27th, you'll have a good handle on the budget number?
I do, yes, sir. There's a few things that are outstanding. Lex, you may want to mention that, but we feel fairly comfortable with what the budget numbers look like outside of some veto things that we haven't gotten a final on.
I think the 27th is a good time to shoot for, maybe 5-ish, give us 45 minutes, but we also can't do anything till the governor signs it. And I assume he would sign it by then. He still has a veto opportunity, so he could veto a lot of stuff. So we just need to tentatively set it for the 27th
Board
at
members,
5
are y'all
o'clock.
okay with tentatively setting that?
Yes, I'm good.
Yeah, and then if he hasn't signed it, then we won't meet that day. We'll let you know, obviously, ahead of time, but if it's
By July 1.
30 days.
June 27th's got pretty close.
Very close.
He'll probably,
He'll have it signed.
Yeah, but I can't, right. That's why I think the 27th
let's go ahead and
is a good
schedule
time.
that
Yeah.
tentatively.
And just for the public's record, the 27th will be an executive session for the purposes of the board discussing bargaining, and that will be closed to the public.
5 o'clock?
5 o'clock.
Any additional questions?
I think that's it. You said we'd gotten, from the sales tax revenue was 1.157, that covered March, April, and May.
It covers March and April, the full month, and then for May, we've only collected the quarterly tax. We haven't collected the monthly tax yet. That should actually occur in the next couple of days.
For March and April, do you think that's on task?
That's-
I mean, you think that's about where?
Yep, they average just shy of 450,000, so yes, sir, it's pretty close to what we estimated.
And if I could just,
Our unassigned,
Uh-huh.
hasn't it gone up a little? Did it go up a little?
The 5.81, no, I mean, it's gone down last year.
I know it went down, but
Uh-huh.
then did it come up just,
No,
Okay.
it's still at 5.81. It was 5.81 last
Okay.
month, and it's still 5.81.
okay.
I feel fairly comfortable that we should finish out the year around that percentage. You know, obviously with school kind of closing out and things like that, and I know we haven't had any major big, problems, concerns, or anything like that in May thus far, so knock on wood.
Thank
We
you,
still have a
ma'am.
few more days.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I was just going to point out that the Oversight Committee will be getting together to discuss the money that we've raised for the half-cent sales tax sometime in June or July, as soon as we get the engineer's report study back. So that's still going on as planned.
Thank you, Ms. Laxton.
Thank you.
Moving on to our action items. Mr. Superintendent, are the personnel items all in order? Do
Yes, ma'am.
you have a motion to approve the personnel items?
Madam Chair, I so move.
With the addendum, thank you.
Second,
Any discussion regarding the personnel items, including the items on the addendum? With no discussion, all in favor of approving the personnel items, including the items on the addendum, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Personnel items are approved. Moving on to the consent agenda. Board members,
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
with the items on the addendum.
Yes.
Okay.
I second it.
Have a motion to approve the consent agenda items with the items on the addendum and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Madam Chairman, just a couple of things. I saw one change on the bid for the, I guess, that transmission fluid. About fainted when I saw the original
The original bid-
201,000, but I see that's been adjusted
Yes.
down to 4,000, which is $197,000 difference. That's more, I think, in line that I can deal with.
Right, yeah, the 4,000 is correct. The 201 was a bid they put in to do actual work on the transmission. And that's not what we're doing tonight. All we're doing tonight is just the oil.
Okay, and the other thing, I was looking at the policy for the committee, and under C, it said review and recommendation shall be reported on an annual basis. That seems to me like that's awful. A
Is
long
that the-
period of time.
The half-cent sales tax,
Yeah,
that's gonna be quarterly.
well, it says annual.
No.
But I mean, and if you wait a year, I mean,
No,
too much can transpire.
The intent is to be quarterly. The half-cent sales tax committee will meet quarterly, and we can change the verbiage and correct it
You know
back
what,
again.
you see what I'm talking about?
Yes, yes,
Under
but-
C,
Yeah.
To C. Yeah, we can change that to quarterly,
I
certainly
mean, wouldn't
before we
that make more
advertise.
sense?
Yeah, if you would like to make that recommendation, we haven't approved this yet, so we can change that to say quarterly instead of yearly.
I'm in good shape.
That was the intent, I'll just be honest, that's a typo, so that was an intent. The intention is the committee to meet quarterly and then come together with some recommendations to the board.
Okay, I'm good with a quarter. All right, that's it, that's all.
So we want to make that, we can just include that.
Yeah, I've made a note to include
Okay.
that as quarterly. I think we can
Okay.
just
And
advertise it with those changes.
That's right, again, it's just approved to advertise.
Okay. All right, so is there any further discussion regarding the consent agenda with the addendum? All in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Okay, we'll move on to our comments. Is there a member of the audience, any citizen who would like to address the board? You can come forward to the podium. If you'll make certain you state your name, and you have 3 minutes to address the board.
Yes, I am Reverend Dr. Shalita Mira. And you can let me know when I'm,
You have it right here. It'll tell you what your time is.
okay, perfect, perfect. All right, my husband and I, we stand before the board today as concerned parents and community leaders in utter disbelief and outrage at the actions of the Columbia County school system, with questions as to the competence and safety regarding those who have been elected to protect the most vulnerable among us. After repeated calls expressing concern, even to our own elected school board representative, Hunter Peeler, who did not even have the courtesy of returning our phone call after stating he would, further increases our doubt in the leadership of those we have entrusted and elected to protect our young ones. On your homepage under the welcome, it states that our students have access to some of the best educators and programs in Florida. The Columbia County School Board focuses on educating students in an environment of trust and respect, with student success being our ultimate goal. The mission says to create a safe, orderly learning environment conducive to the preparation of highly motivated students. If this is the stated mission, I must inform you that as a parent, a community leader, and someone who was born and raised in this community, that you have failed. The rehiring of Mr. Christopher Martinez and the investigation that ensued showed that there was inappropriate communication between Mr. Martinez and students attending Columbia High School. During a 2017 investigation, we saw that there were multiple statements that came from students who attended Columbia High School who noted inappropriate conversations and interactions. Yes, the Columbia County School Board did an investigation, but then they gave the investigation to the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office gave the investigation to the Department of Education. And I have brought statements from you today to review from multiple victims. And in this is not my daughter, who was also a victim, who statement was not even taken as a part of the initial investigation in 2017. We are deeply concerned now because this individual has now been rehired as not only a PE coach, but that was the original position where he was then grooming young women. So it is incumbent upon you to read these statements and live up to the motto that you have stated and that you have asked us to elect you and entrust you to do these things, because our youth are not safe in this school. As a psychologist, as a licensed therapist, and as a pastor, I am deeply concerned and I am upset, and I am calling on the board to do what God has called you to do. If you would like to. And these came directly from the Florida Department of Education. They can be requested at any time through public records request.
Madam Chairperson, members of the board, I come before you tonight not as a psychologist, not as an activist, not as a pastor or a minister, but as a father. In December of 2017, we were notified by way of a phone call from the Columbia High School that there was concern around a possibly an inappropriate relationship between our daughter and an educator at your school, Mr. Martinez. We were met that afternoon in the office at Columbia High School by Mr. Hosford and Assistant Principal Bailey, along with our daughter, to take a statement and receive a response from us. Mr. Hosford could have been no more concerned with our presence there or the allegations that were going on. He was very dismissive and more concerned with getting to dismissal procedures than hearing from us as parents or our daughter. Ms. Bailey took the statement, and then after that we left. We heard nothing else from anyone from at the Columbia County School District or from the Florida Department of Education. We were not even made aware that an investigation was going on until this very year in 2023. Mr. Martinez was allowed to resign on the very same day, Mr. Carswell, that you drafted his termination letter. So I would like to know, and I know you can't answer it tonight, is every employee gifted that opportunity that when they violated school board policy to the level of to be terminated, they're allowed to resign with no remorse, no recourse on that very same day the letter is drafted? Also, we were made aware that the administration at Columbia High School, by way of general counsel at the Florida Department of Education, that the administration at Columbia High School prevented and manipulated the investigation and advised the investigator from the Department of Education that our daughter was not to be interviewed, as we did not want her interviewed. That could not be farther from the truth, because we never heard from anybody at the Florida Department of Education and nobody from the Columbia County School District after that day we got the phone call from the high school. Even more concerning is the fact that in some of these very same documents that you all have, it's very clear and apparent that Mr. Todd Whittegren was aware of a previous incident very similar and even reached out to that parent who was an employee of the Columbia County School District, a former teacher when he was a principal, and she may very well still be a teacher. Her daughter was involved in a very similar scenario and situation with Mr. Martinez. I requested Mr. Martinez's personnel record. This was not even in his personnel record that it was ever investigated, nor he was ever disciplined for this matter. So a clear pattern of behavior by Mr. Martinez and a clear failure on the Columbia County School District, its administration, teachers, and its policies are flawed, along with the Florida Department of Education. I respect your time and thank you for allowing me to speak on tonight.
Ronald Williams, 352 Northwest Belvin Way, Lake City, Florida. There's a great saying that I always tell my Marines while I was in the Marine Corps. It's hard finding something, especially when you're not looking for it. In this instance, in all these investigations, the Columbia County School Board, the police report, Department of Education, all of them say the same thing. They say things like this from Mr. Martinez: call me daddy. Video slapping your butt and make it sound like this. Thought the whole thing was disgusting, but the student liked the flirting. Saw Martinez at a store. He said hi. He messaged her later. The boyfriend asked why he was messaging her. He told her stop being around Martinez. Martinez, the student, was talking since summer and maybe at the end of last year. And the relationship began on Instagram. Martinez texts, "Don't walk by me unless you go in front of me." While he was at a game, Martinez texted me, "Don't walk by me unless you're going to bend over." Martinez texted once to go behind the stadium to meet him. I did not go. I didn't text him anymore. Martinez advised me to unsend messages on Instagram. Student told me that Martinez was talking to her on Instagram. I saw messages. Student said, "Yes, sir," to him. Martinez, and he replied, "Now you're talking." It was weird. I told the student that was not right. Martinez asked the student to go to his office on Instagram. I told her not to go. Ladies and gentlemen, these comments are throughout all these reports. There's nothing hidden. These students are with different families. They were interviewed at different times, but they all came with the same thing. Instagram with Facebook, and I'll take that up with Mark Hunter. But there was not one thing. His phones were not taken. His electronic devices were not subpoenaed. None of this happened. He was not even, Facebook has an application for the police to even send, and they would freeze people's accounts and contain the information until you get the appropriate legal documents from the court system, and they would give you everything that they needed. None of this stuff was done. And it's really, sad for me because, when I got there, I called the general counsel for the state of Florida. She tells me that somebody here, just made a decision for parents not to even include them into an investigation. I'm just trying to figure out, according to the Florida statutes, under the Parent Bill of Rights, that you cannot interfere with a parent and their children. It's not a part of your records for the Columbia County School Board that who this person was. And I don't know who it was. Can we find out who that was? Can we find out why did you make a decision to let him resign rather than to terminate him? All of these things are questionable, all the things. And this young man is right back out to the school doing the same thing. Right back being a PE teacher and right back on the football field. Let it not be so.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? No, you have 3 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you. You have 3 minutes. Thank you. School board members. Mr. Peeler?
No comment.
No comment.
Mr. Hudson? No comment. Ms. Smith?
I just want to say to the parents who came forward, Reverend and Mira and her husband, thank you for your comments. Any concerns that are in the community, we want to be aware of them. And I appreciate you all taking the time to come and express yourself as opposed to withholding them inside. So thank you for your comments. And I thank our financial officer for her report tonight.
Ms. Logan?
No comment.
I just want to remind everybody, Thursday night, baccalaureate, Columbia High, same place as Fort White's was, and then Friday night, hope it doesn't rain, Columbia High graduation. That's all.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you for addressing the board. And I'll be headed to Fort White's spring game, so I'll see y'all at the baccalaureate. Thank you. Adjourned.